the CEO misappropriated £66 million and it had to go bust. I think they wanted like top students in the province, and somehow I was selected as one of the students that would represent my school. I was uncertain. Like, even the opportunity when it came, they said, you're successful. I remember having a conversation with my then manager, because I was now working as a legal advisor at a freight forwarding and logistics company.
Welcome to another episode of Sisters in Conversation. I'm your host, Debela Mutwane. I'm an attorney by profession and the founder of a platform called Sister in Law, which is a platform dedicated to empowering women through legal education. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you are old to this channel, don't forget to get more people to subscribe. Follow us on all our social media pages, Sister in Law across the board, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X. Just follow us on social media. On today's episode, I'm joined by the lovely Sharon Msiza, who is a maritime law practitioner. She's been on the show before, if you've been following the show since about 2020. And she is back on the show to tell us where she is now. 5 years since first speaking to us. A lot has happened in 5 years. We know a lot can happen in a year as well, but shoo. We're going to start from the very beginning, actually, for the people who are new to this channel and don't necessarily have time to scroll all the way back to 2020, 2021. Tell us, who is Sharon?
Firstly, thank you so much, Develo.
Thank you. Thank you for honoring the invitation.
Thank you for inviting me again on this platform. Absolutely amazing to just have this conversation with you. Well, I am a maritime practitioner. However, I am not practicing. So that means I am not at a law firm.
Okay.
So currently I work for a marine insurance company based in the UK. I work
Miss
as
International.
I work as a claims exec.
Miss Executive.
Oh no! don't even. It's not that deep. But yeah, so that's where I am right now. Just to keep it short, and I think we'll just delve into it.
But I think I wanted to also just be more specific. Like, tell us about Sharon's upbringing, your childhood. How many siblings do you have? Were you raised by your parents? Were you raised by your grandparents? And just share like a happy memory with us from your childhood that always just stands out when you're feeling warm and fuzzy inside.
Sure. So I come from a family of 5. I have 3 brothers and I'm the last one. And I come from a single parent household. So we were all raised by my mom. And we grew up at Gamotla. So I was born in Winterveld. I don't know, a lot of people will know that. But yeah, it's a very dangerous kasi. I'm kidding.
Winterveld is like, for someone who doesn't know, like Hammanskraal side.
Type of vibes, yes, something like that. Then we relocated to Gamotla, which is like a village. But recently, a lot of people are saying it's a township. But either way, it's just it's the dusty streets of Gamotla. That's how I love to refer to it.
Does that fall under Gauteng or Northwest?
No, it falls under Northwest. Okay. It's literally just at the border of Gauteng and Northwest. But yeah, so that's where I grew up. So the conditions of how I grew up, I think I was quite an independent child, you know, being the only girl in the house, and the age gap between my brothers and I, it's ridiculous. The eldest one is like 18 years older than me, and the last one is like 7 years older than me. So we were not really like close.
Besties, yeah.
So every child had its own their own moment. So for me, it was also exacerbated by the fact that I was a girl. So it was a bit hard connecting with my brothers because they were guys and stuff. And older. But we did have a decent relationship.
But you were the princess.
I don't think so. I actually feel like I was quite masculine because of the masculine energy within the household. I don't think I presented as a princess at all, and neither do I think I do even at this point. So, a lot of that masculine energy somehow filtered down. I'm the girl who loves football, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just that type of person, but I do have feminine traits as well. But yeah, so that's pretty much how I grew
Which
up.
primary school and high school did you go to?
So I went to Gamotla Primary School, then proceeded to middle school, I think Reboni Middle School, and then I went to Loloane High School. And they're all pretty much in Gamotla Retiepane, within the same village, an adjacent village, I think. So I'm a village girl.
Yeah, I was going to say village girl, village girl.
Yeah, village girl.
And, coming from a village where we know, even in present day, that access to opportunities and resources is very limited.
Yeah.
And you need to go out there really to access the opportunities, to access information even sometimes. Even what we take for granted, things like data today. Given that is challenging even in present time, how was it that you were then able to gain access to the fact that, okay, after high school, I can get a university education? And once you then found out that you could get a university education, what drew you to considering law?
Great. So I believe in God, and one of the things that I love to say is just to attribute the progression of my career to God. And I think this is particularly important for me to highlight, because how I got to a point of knowing about university, it's because I was connected to a teacher in high school that used to lead prayers and everything. Then I didn't even think beyond matric.
Sure.
Really.
Yeah.
Even in grade 11, I just didn't think beyond matric.
Yeah.
And I met her while I was in grade 11, and she kind of like saw the potential in me. She saw my academic strengths, and she then started applying on my behalf.
Oh, lovely. Bless
So
her.
she applied for me at WITS, and I didn't even know how to pronounce it. I was like, University
And what did
of
that mean to
Wit-
you when she was saying, okay, you're in grade 11 now, I'm applying to Wits University? Like, what was your understanding? What kind of feelings did you get?
For me, I think it was a relationship of trust. I was like, I trust that you know better than I do. So if you think that this is something that I should be doing, then I completely
trust you. Yeah, I love
that. So it was just a relationship of trust. I didn't even have the slightest understanding of what that would mean for me. So that's how I got access to that data, that there is life after matric, that I can pursue. How I then got to pursue law, which was not what I wanted to do initially. I've always wanted to be a chartered accountant because I was quite strong in accounting. So what happened was, while I was in grade 11, there was a school's moot court, the national one that started. And I think it has just been ongoing since 2011. So we got into the first cohort of it. So what they wanted, I think they wanted like top students in the province, and somehow I was selected as one of the students that would represent my school at the school's moot court. Long story short, we got to make written submissions. Those then progressed to having to go to the University of Pretoria, then from the University of Pretoria going to the Constitutional Court, where I then had an opportunity to exchange some few words with the former Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke. And one of the questions I asked him during coffee break and stuff was to ask him about the role of the Constitution in ensuring that people like me who come from disadvantaged backgrounds have access to quality education.
Sure.
I I don't
Where did
remember
that
what
question come from?
I don't know what I don't know where it came from. One,
Yeah.
and I don't even remember what his answer was, but I remember him saying, "You'd make a great lawyer one day."
Oh,
And
lovely.
from that moment, I was like, if someone of his caliber would think I'd make a great lawyer, then surely maybe I should just pursue law.
Sure.
And that's when I looked into doing law and communicated it with the teacher that I told you. Then she made an application for me to do law at WITS and also to do economics, but I was only accepted for law.
Oh, lovely, lovely. And what was the transition like? I mean, coming from the village, yes, you had a little bit of access to understanding campus, but not campus life. You had just been at University of Pretoria for a competition, but now you were in a place where there was a much bigger building than the primary and high school you had attended. So you sort of had an idea that, okay, university is a big structure.
Yeah.
But what was the actual transition like? Because you not only changed from high school to university, but you also changed from being in the village to being at the heart of Johannesburg.
Yeah. The transition was difficult.
Yeah.
It was so difficult. I can't even tell you the number of times I felt like I don't want to do this. This is a lot. Why am I getting teary?
Because you wouldn't have come with your family, right?
Yes. So, and also that in of itself is just like a story that was just, it's still heartbreaking to me how I had to travel from the villages all the way to Johannesburg, got mugged.
Sure.
Carrying big bags. I don't even know where I'm going. I've never been to this place before. So like it was just a scary experience for me. Okay, then managed to settle down, found a place to stay. Then now you have to go to campus. You have to, you're in a class with people who are white people, firstly, people from middle C schools, private schools. It's a combination of everyone. And I can't tell you how my imposter syndrome dealt with me.
Sure.
It was ridiculous. I just felt like I don't belong. I shouldn't be here. How dare I think this is an environment that I can, thrive in? And it was hard. I remember I would go to classes and immediately just go back to my room and say, like, this is overwhelming. This is a lot. When you speak English and you pronounce and you find out that some of the things you're not even pronouncing them well. And, like kids will always be kids.
Yeah.
Like students will
Kids
be
are mean,
students.
yeah.
They are mean. Some of them will laugh at them. And I remember vividly an incident in a criminal law class where I asked a question and the lecturer, when a person responds in a rhetoric way and like everybody laughed and I said, I'm never going to ask a question. And
Sure.
I left that university without even having like an active engagement in class. I was just like keeping quiet because that moment broke me. And I just like, it's not worth it. I just need to communicate with my paper when I'm, writing exams and all of that. So it was hard.
I can imagine how scary that must be,
Yes.
that you're in a position where you're just like, I'm never going to ask questions again. And today we know better that you have to ask the question even when your voice is shaking, right? All the information that we currently have access to really leans towards the fact that as women, we have to use our voices even when it absolutely terrifies us to do so. Obviously, you made that decision as as the younger Sharon, and I know nobody has ever been able to keep you quiet in a room, hopefully since then, and in a position or put you in a position where you feel like you are not worthy of asking questions. But how was the rest of your campus experience? Were you able to form friendships? Were you
Yes.
able to eventually learn how to use Google? I think that's something we really take for granted, hey?
Yeah.
And possibly you didn't have even a laptop until you got to varsity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Didn't have a laptop, didn't have a computer. So you can imagine I was that person at the computer labs who was looking for where P is. I was doing this. I'm in varsity at that time.
First year, and our
First year.
assignments have to be typed.
Yes.
How were you able to then just get to a point where you got a little bit of confidence with how a computer works?
I think I spent a lot of time in a computer lab. That's one of the things that I did because I love studying with music, and computer labs allows you to be, on YouTube while using the resources and stuff, which is a bit different from a library because I'm like, it can be a bit too quiet. So I spent a lot of time in a computer lab, and obviously over time, as you use it, you get comfortable with it. You are able to familiarize yourself with, the keys on the keyboard, where A is, where B is, and you get comfortable. So I think I had to push myself. And I think also just realizing that I'm here now.
Yo.
So I just have to make it work.
Do you know at the time what it meant to you? Like, yeah, do you remember what it felt like, even in the moments of doubt where you were like, I don't deserve to be here, or I'm not worthy of being here. My English is not crisp. I don't know how to use a computer. Do you still remember what just being in the room meant to you at that time?
I think for me it was wanting to have the experience and comparing it with what I've always known, which is where I come from. And I was like, this might be new, but it's definitely different than where I come from.
And you don't necessarily want to be stuck where you come from.
Yes, because one thing I usually say when people ask me who is your role model, I always tell them I don't have one. If anything, what kept me motivated was an environment that I did not want to be in. And anything that was not my environment was a better opportunity. So it was almost like, yes, university is different. I have to learn all these new things, but this is better than what I know and where I'm from. And this is a promise of a better future. So all I just need to do is do what I have to do in the moment and just keep doing what I have to do when I need to do it. We will see at the end of the day how it all plays out, So for me, I lived in the moment in that I did not think about, when I'm done, at least I'm going to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
No, I thought about, I have to get this assignment done. When I'm done, I have
So
to
you
get
just
the
thought
other one.
about the next
Yes.
step. You literally took one step at a time.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
And I think in retrospect, looking at it now, that helped me because then that meant every challenge. Because in all honesty, every step that I took was a challenge because I've never taken it before. It was a challenge. Also, it was an opportunity for growth. So it was almost like I have to constantly be focusing on this great task that I have to overcome, which is this challenge, this opportunity for growth. And that has been literally my worldview and how I progress through uni.
I love that so much, especially being a person who I've always thought, beyond where I needed to be. A lot of the time I share the story of how I started businesses in primary school. Like I was selling Diogeta. Then when the teacher said this is not allowed, I was doing things, running a car wash.
Wow.
In the area where I stayed, just forcing my brother to help me carry buckets, and we were washing cars. And then at some point, I didn't know what it looked like, but I knew that I wanted to be like a businesswoman, and I didn't know what it looked like. But it's so refreshing hearing you say that you always just focused on the current task in front of you because that in itself was a challenge.
Yes.
And it just draws me to thinking about how sometimes we overwhelm ourselves with this big plan of like, of course, it's good to know what your 3 and 5 year plan is, but sometimes it's also just important to break all those things down to little building blocks and focus on how can I get through this challenge that I'm in right now, or how can I get through doing this task? And it really boils down to how can I finish my to-do list during today and finish this task in this hour, And obviously when you break things down like that, you are able to look back and see that you've actually achieved quite a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure.
That's true.
Sure. And then towards the end of varsity, assuming that you weren't part of any societies, right, during your your varsity?
Just the Christian Action Fellowship. And at the end, I think final year, I was part of the subcommittee of the SRC, the legal, I forgot what it is, but legal something is a subcommittee of the SRC where, they'll get volunteers when there are legal issues. You know how students...
Student
those,
activists.
Yes, yeah. So
But you were not a tutor. You were just SRC. Okay.
No. And even then, I don't like saying I was SRC because, it was just like back doors at the back, So, yes, I wasn't SRC. Please don't quote me on that one.
But
yeah.
those kind of, even when you're not necessarily playing the most important role, if I can put it that way, you are in a room where certain things are being discussed. And is that how you then got to knowing about articles? Or when was the first time when you realized, after I complete my studies, I still have to then do my articles? And how did you then get into motion of, okay, let me apply for articles, let me look for a place where I can serve my articles?
Interestingly enough, for various reasons, one of those being what I'm currently doing, I never wanted to be like a practicing attorney.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be a human rights, activist, a human rights lawyer, but more on the activist side. I was very drawn to that. And I think the large part of it was just informed by where I came from. And I felt like, I never had opportunities, and people from my township and neighboring townships don't have opportunities. What is the law doing about this type of thing? So mindset,
back to the very question you had asked the Deputy Chief Justice.
Yes. So I was like gravitating towards that. But when you're in a university environment where everyone is talking about articles and stuff, I was just putting out, applications because
everyone was doing it.
But I promise you, I did not put a lot of energy into it. Sometimes I didn't even check if I got any responses.
So you weren't stressed?
I wasn't that stressed. And I think because I've thought of furthering my studies. I've always wanted to further my studies. And I was like, in any event, when I'm done, I'm just going to do my master's. So I don't need to be focusing on it. And I think it was when I was doing my master's that I become very intense when it came to applying. Because then now you realize that the peers that you were with undergrad,
they are working.
Now they are working because they had to, make applications. And like, I can't be in a university forever. I just have to, at some point, I'm going to have to jump ship and start working. So I think, when I was doing my master's, that's when I started.
What were you doing your master's in?
I did my master's in shipping law at the University of Cape Town.
How did you get into that, given that you are a girl from the Northwest in a village? There's no ship. Like you've never seen, like you've watched Titanic at best. How did you get into pursuing a shipping law master's?
So, one thing about me, I want to do things that a lot of people aren't doing. So the moment it becomes like a popular thing, I become disinterested. So because I've always known I wanted to do my master's, I approached my mentor and I said to her, I want to do my master's. But everybody else is saying they're going to do their master's in commercial law, business law, whatever. I'm thinking I should do it in human rights law. And she looked at me and she said, I have a master's in human rights law. I'm not even practicing it. We have a lot of human rights lawyers. We don't need more. Do something that's different. Maybe look into mining law or shipping law.
And mining law was actually not that popular yet.
Yes. But, mining is not something that's far-fetched from us as Black people. It's embedded in our history, But shipping, I was quite interested in that. And that was the first research I did. I looked into shipping law. And one of the first things that popped up was arresting a ship.
Yo, my favorite topic.
Your favorite topic. And that really caught my attention because the only arresting I know is from a criminal law class where we put handcuffs on you because you've committed a crime. And now I'm wondering, in what context would we now arrest a ship, and how do we physically do that? So I read into it and I was like, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah,
Everything I'm reading here is interesting. This is something I've not heard of before, and I want to do it. Why not? So then I reached out to the course convener at the University of Cape Town, and I told him who I am. I have an interest in this thing, and I just want to apply. And he helped me to apply. Sure. And then I applied for a scholarship, got a scholarship, then moved to Cape Town.
And how was that transition from being a village girl into the heart of Johannesburg, now staying by the coast?
It's one challenge after the other.
Yeah.
It's one challenge after the other. I think Cape Town, that's when I got depressed.
Sure.
I literally got depressed.
What was going on?
Because one thing about me, I'm about people. I love people. I'm very sociable. And I love integrating in communities and also from a church perspective. And I struggled to build that in Cape Town.
I've seen a lot of people online say that it's so difficult to make friends in Cape Town versus in Johannesburg. Okay.
True.
So it's true.
I struggled. The first few months that I was there, I struggled. Then I got to connect with some, students as well. They were not doing masters, but they were like from Tsakani. So they themselves were coming into a new space. Then we got connected by a mutual friend. And some of them are still my friends today.
Love it.
So they helped me a lot navigate that. And I also made like friendships, solid friendships at work. Black girl magic.
Yeah.
And it was such a support structure at that time. But having to go back to your own room and just realize that you are fighting for community in some spaces. And when you walk into some environments, you feel like, oh my God, I don't belong. It's just been a constant struggle with belonging. Just feeling like I don't belong, because it's a new space. You've not been there. The culture is different. People are different. And the newness of it and having to assimilate to the newness of the culture, it can be depressing.
Sure, yeah.
And I think I fell more into the depressive space. And also, Cape Town was when I was doing something completely new, shipping law. I knew nothing about shipping law. So then now that meant I had to learn again the terminology within the industry. What is marine insurance? How is risk covered in the shipping space? Learning about admiralty, how the courts adjudicate over shipping matters, having to learn about maritime law, all the collisions that are happening at sea. How is it that these things actually happen? It's a new...
And that's like an area of the law that is actually not limited to South Africa, right? So you had to understand South Africa's position in the global context. So you're not just, like with constitutional law, we know, yes, sometimes we'll compare to overseas or whatever, but for the majority, family law, we are focused on what's happening in South Africa if you are married in community of property. But with shipping law, you really have to understand it from a global perspective. So that was quite a lot to consume.
Yes, it was. It was quite a lot to consume. And you are right. It is a global industry. So global that some of our case law makes reference to English law. And a lot of admiralty law, like shipping law in South Africa, mirrors the English law. So we borrow some decisions that were made that side, and it can be overwhelming. It's a lot of English.
The whole day,
everywhere.
Like Admiralty King, like yo.
And sometimes you just want that familiar. John Jabu, your Jabu, like you can explain divorce in your own mother language, but like this space, there's no translating it into my mother language. It's just too international.
Hectic.
But even then, I started it. I had to complete it.
And that's how you then got into maritime, department when you started your articles.
Yes. So I then applied to one of the law firms and got accepted. And I did my articles.
In Cape Town. You did your articles
in Cape Town. So I was with their shipping and logistics department for 2 years, did my articles then, did not get retained.
Was it because it was a very small department?
That's what they said to me, that they don't have capacity to take on an associate. And to be fair, they never did take on any associate even after I left. So I guess it was because they didn't. And I then had to, because I was committed to shipping now, I was like, I'm not going to do...
And there was no rotation. That's interesting.
No, there wasn't, because the whole philosophy behind this law firm is they wanted to create experts. And I'm grateful for it because I've learned quite a lot in the 2 years and bad for it.
And it was just sort of, it wasn't one of those departments where you get lost in the politics. Well, there are not too many people, right? Because it's a very small department.
Yes.
And like, for example, a dispute resolution department or commercial where there are probably 8 other CAs and there's just politics. You were able to almost get as much as you could.
Yes. I was literally the only candidate attorney. I was split into 2 departments, dispute resolution as well as shipping. But because shipping itself is litigious in nature,
it makes sense.
It made sense. And even in those 2 departments, I was still the only CA for both 2 departments, so that meant I was in a position where I learned a lot, but I was overwhelmed a lot. I had a lot of workload because I was the only one for both.
How did you navigate that?
I don't know. I just woke up and I did what I had to do.
Right?
You
did what Sharon does, face the task that's in front of me right now and get through that.
Yeah. And I can't even be here and say it was enough. Probably the people who were my seniors felt like it wasn't enough. It could also be the reason why I didn't get the opportunity to be retained.
I mean, you said
we
they still
know.
Didn't get somebody after that. So maybe
girl, we don't know.
Machangura to keep you. All right. And then you went on to be an associate elsewhere. I'm just going to also just fast forward that because I'm also really interested into how you eventually moved to the UK. And I think we've spent enough time on the journey, but now why we are in this 5-year mark, let's focus on that. How did you then take the leap of faith in looking beyond the borders of South Africa for employment and for opportunities? As we discussed, you are in an industry that operates in a global market, right? So it was sort of given that at some point you'd need to leave South Africa and pursue it and pursue your career elsewhere.
Yes.
How was that?
So that opportunity came about through the Maritime Law Association of South Africa, which I am a member of. And it was in partnership with a law firm in the UK. So the idea was that the senior partner in the UK office wanted to get young, upcoming shipping maritime lawyers from South Africa to expose them to the global market in the UK for a period of like 3 to 6 months. You had to decide which one you wanted to do. And the idea was for you to then come back and pour into the South African market what you've learned abroad. But at the same time, I had just started with my PhD with a university in China. So the idea was to go to London for 6 months and then go to China to complete my PhD.
Miss International.
It's the field itself, like you said. It's an international field, and I would have never thought that that's how my life would have turned out. But then, yes, that opportunity opened up. It was an internship, and I applied. We had an interview. Absolutely amazing. I then got a call to say, hey, you've been successfully selected to participate in this internship at our UK office. When would you like to start? Then I told them when I would love to start, made plans, arrangements, then I moved to that side.
And how did you feel during all of this? And I really need to keep on going back to referencing Village Girl, because there's somebody out there who's listening who is just like, what is this even possible? Like, with my current circumstances, how, you know? And so how were you feeling during that process and during the actual move to the UK?
So I think the feeling was a bit, I was uncertain. Like, even the opportunity when it came, they said, you're successful. I remember having a conversation with my then manager, because I was now working as a legal advisor at a freight forwarding and logistics company. I said, I have a permanent job here. To leave for an internship abroad for like 6 months, I don't know if I should be making that risk. And I remember vividly him saying, you know, even if you went there for 2 months, you're not going to come back. You are that good. And
wow.
Take it. You are not coming back to South Africa. And I was like, it's a risk, but let's do it. So I needed that moment. So I was like, it's fine. Even if I'm just there for 6 months and I have to come back, it's a 6 months that I would have never gotten if I didn't go, you know. So the experience being that side as well, because London is just like a metropolitan city. There's everyone from different walks of life. So in as much as I am a foreigner, it did not feel like it, because there's another brother of mine from another country. And our accents are all different, you know, and you don't stand out as much.
It definitely wasn't standing out like when you first got to Joburg, for example.
Yes. So, and also I've grown to Bello at this time. I've been to therapy.
You're self-aware.
I'm self-aware. I know how to navigate things. I think differently. My emotional intelligence is now so much better. I know how to articulate myself. I know how to say no to things I don't want.
You know how to ask questions.
I know how to ask questions. I'm very inquisitive, by the way. So I ask a lot of questions. I'm not scared to walk up to someone and say, hey, I'm looking for a shop where I can get this and that. Whether they're going to feel like, oh, this one is new, I don't care. Because if I don't express it, I'm not going to get an answer. I'm that person who walks into a supermarket and be like, I'm not going to be bothered to find out where these things are for myself. I'm going to find the first person who works
who can direct
and
me.
they will show me where it is, because I'm like, convenience over everything right now. I need to be able to advocate for myself. And also, if you look at my journey, I've had to move from one point to the other where it's a new environment where I had to fend for myself. So now I've grown to this space where I'm like, hey girl, no one is going to come and save you. If you don't do this, no one is going to come to save you. You are in a completely different country. You don't even have a family that you can call and say, hey, I'm stranded. Can somebody please come
and pick me up?
Yes,
or whatever.
You know?
Yeah.
So that wasn't as hard, integrating into the London life and environment. Although, of course, because it's different culture, people do things differently. They are not like Batubamo South Africa, you know. They are not too open. They're very reserved. And I struggled a lot with that. Like, how am I able to go into a kitchen, make coffee? You come, you find me, you don't greet me. and it's okay. And
That is crazy.
the
Like
next person
you just don't see who
you know-
there's someone standing next to you.
and
Yeah.
you start to feel like, is it me? But then you see it being
Happen.
done amongst themselves, and you're like, no, it's actually a cultural thing. Like, that's just how things are done.
How do you make it easy?
Yeah, like, okay, Madume, why do you want to know how I'm doing? We are not that close, you know?
Sure.
So it's just like, you all right? And that's it. Like, yeah, I mean, that's the only way to answer to you all right. You say, yes, I'm all right. Because the moment you start saying, I'm not all right, it also becomes a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah,
because,
like, okay, she's relocating.
yeah. But yes, integrating into a workspace in the UK, being a girl from the villages, I think at this point, I'm not just a girl from the villages. A girl from the villages is a reference to where I come from, but not the person I am now.
That's why I said I'll reference it, but you are
Yes,
definitely not. Yeah.
So it's constantly that's where I started, and it's a good reference because I'm like, hey, sipumagude, like we come from far, and just to be able to see that growth, even that I have been able to tap into throughout the progression of my career, is very humbling. So I think I've just been talking and rambling, and even forgot the last part of your question.
No, it was just about the transition again.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
how did you integrate? But you've now told us that about Habadi Medisi.
That can't be the only thing you take from that.
No, not at all. I think I wanted to be for us to discuss. Hey, it was supposed to be 3 to 6 months. We are in year 2 now. Tell us how we got here too.
Yeah, girl. People must not lie to you and say cupcake and other people are the only ones that are sneaky. So the company that I worked for, that I was interning at, what happened was apparently the CEO misappropriated 66 million pounds and it had to go bust. It's non-existent right now as I'm speaking.
So you went at the right, like just.
I didn't even finish the 6 months
Oh.
because, it was tough.
Did you get paid for the last month?
Sissy, let's not discuss finances. Don't
I'm
do
just
that.
like 66 what? Did you get paid that last month?
Hey, what's important?
Yo,
We survived. We go through things, guys. Like, don't look at us being here and saying, oh, but to Maritime Bay,
but
shipping.
66 what billion? All right.
£1 million converted into rands.
Number
Exactly.
Can't even.
Exactly.
Calculator will freeze.
It's a lot.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the company couldn't survive that. But luckily,
But you survived that.
because God.
Yo.
God is just amazing. How everything has just been orchestrated. Absolutely God. Because this is what I did not say. I think 2 to 3 months when I was there, I then got into conversations about permanently being there, which it was accepted. Then I got an offer. The CEO that misappropriated funds was supposed to sign on that. But it was taking awkwardly long. Then I was like, you know what? I am uncomfortable about this. I started making applications elsewhere. Long story short, on the day that they told us that the CEO has misappropriated funds was the day that I got an offer with the company that I'm at right now.
God.
So when everyone was in tears, I was busy saying, "Oh, it's okay. Oh,
Hey,
I'm
Marie,
so
you were
sorry."
like, Marie, hey,
Dodge
dodge the bullet.
dodged the bullet, but I was in a position where at least I could offer some emotional support to the people that were going through difficult time. And to be in that position, it can only be God, because there's no way that I could have done it in my own power. So absolutely attributed to God, how I got to be there longer than I had initially intended. And here we are, we're still there.
And how are things going with the studies, Miss PhD?
Yo.
Because you dropped that earlier, and I'm sure people are like, wait, we want a little bit more about this journey. Even if you have put things on pause, we still need to know, like, that it's possible for us to even get access to that kind of opportunity.
Yeah. Studies are ongoing, but obviously not as fast or as quick as it would be if I was just doing my PhD and not working at the same time. But I'm doing them both at the same time. So sometimes I can just go a week without even having looked at it. But I try to have like a structure where I at least do 2 hours every day, either of reading or of writing. And on weekends, I do like a writing marathon with a group of other academics from South Africa. So we do it virtually. Some are doctors already doing for the postdoc, and others are pursuing their PhD. So we help each other. We have that community so that we hold each other accountable. And that's how I'm able to still focus on it, even though I'm still working. So the journey is still ongoing. I think sometime in June I may have a midterm defense. So we're pushing.
Sure, I love that. Yeah. You didn't mention the part where you had to learn Mandarin.
Yes, because the first year of the PhD you do coursework. You don't
And
do
now it's a
no
Chinese
research,
university.
no nothing. It's a Chinese university. You have to do Mandarin, so we had to learn ni hao, wo jiao, shima menzi, all those things. And and I actually have to write a national exam in Mandarin before I can qualify. No, is it qualify before I can get my qualification? Yeah,
So that's still on the way.
that's still on the way.
Like you're gonna write it like or type.
No, I don't know how I'm gonna, but I think I'm gonna go to a writing center. I'm just not too sure if I'm gonna be writing.
Yeah.
I think I am,
That is
because
very
we need to
interesting.
also write the Chinese characters. I don't know how that's gonna be done, but yeah.
Hey, you've managed to do everything else. What is your maybe one awesome career highlight in the past 5 years where you really looked in the mirror and you were like, yo, Sharon, mo girl, you are the girl you think you are. Where in that moment, there was no shadow of doubt that you are competent, you are worthy, you are excellent at what you do. What was that day like?
I think for me, it was when I was at the law firm in the UK. I met a team and I was part of a team. They thought so highly of me.
I love that. Yeah.
No, and they still do.
Yeah, I love that.
They thought so highly of me and they still do. Even today, shout out to Akshay Misra. He's helped me develop this confidence in myself. Like, and I think also William Chetwood, like they would look at my work and say, stunning. Which is something I've hardly experienced in the South African corporate. You go abroad and people are like, you are
Celebrating
smart.
the work that you do.
And like people are like, you're smart. People will even compliment you on how you're dressing and like, oh, we love your heels. And I'm like, oh, come through. I want to be here forever.
Yeah,
I don't want
yeah,
to go.
yeah.
The work that you're producing, there are no loopholes. People are not poking holes and say, yeah, but you should have said it like this. Maybe next time don't. I think being in the UK was the greatest highlight of my career. That's when I realized I'm actually smart. And I know I am. And if I leave the UK and go to any other jurisdiction whatsoever, I will leave with that understanding that I am competent. And that's not to say I'm saying I am competent because I got the certification from the UK people.
Because you've always been open to learning.
Yes, I've always been open to learning, but the UK people were the ones that were able to recognize it and say it to my face and not feel like, oh, if we tell her she's going to be too pompous or something like that. I think that was the greatest highlight. And that has helped me to even how I engage with people and how I see my career and myself as a professional in this industry. Just that belief that was ignited in me. And to be quite honest, I don't think anything changed. I gave them the work that I've been doing with previous people. Nothing was different.
Your last boss in SA said, Sharon, you are brilliant.
You know?
Even if it's 2 months, you are
Yes.
going to stay there.
And
I love that.
and it worked out.
Yeah.
It worked out. So
Sure.
that is the highlight of my career.
I love that so
Yeah.
much. Sure, in the few minutes that we have left, we
Yes.
would be doing you a disservice if we didn't touch on the amazing work that you're doing with the Maritime Law podcast.
Oh, yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. And I really think it's such an incredible way to pay it forward.
Yeah.
Given back to that question that you had asked the Deputy Chief Justice, what are you doing for us who don't have access to education?
Yeah.
You are using the podcast to educate people
Yes.
on the different facets that exist within the maritime
Yes.
industry, an industry that don't have enough Black women, South African women, the whole industry, not just the legal, but the whole industry.
Yes.
And you're doing such a marvelous job with that. Tell us a little
Thank
bit
you.
more about the podcast.
So a podcast, the Maritime Law podcast, I love to say that it is a passion project for me. I started it in 2020 when I was unemployed. That was when I did not get retained at the other law firm. And I was like, but I love this industry. How do I then still stay relevant within this industry? That's when I started writing to different people, reaching out, and eventually I wrote to Professor Portia Ndlovu. She is a professor at the Massachusetts Maritime Academy in Boston. And I was like, hey, I love what you're doing. Black women, South African in America, making strides in the industry. Can you please mentor me? She agreed. Then in our own engagements, back and forths, we then decided a podcast would be a great way to, bring awareness within the industry, because one of the things that I was talking about was how it was so difficult for me to get access to the information. I didn't know the industry existed. Yet we are a coastal country. We have coastal waters and we have ports. I didn't even know all these things. So I was like, let's make this, popular, and then let's make this industry known so people can know that there are opportunities within this industry. And the podcast is I decided that would be a vehicle to do that. So it started off between me and Professor Portia Ndlovu, and she then, after a few episodes, said, run with it. You got this.
Love it.
I'll be here in the background if you need anything, but run with it. Then that's when I started inviting different people to just talk about what they do within the industry, opportunities, what they had to study, how they, the challenges they've experienced and all of that. So it's just literally a platform where we just bring on different experts within the industry to speak about what they do in hopes of enticing the younger generation to look into this industry and look for opportunities. Because, we have, in fact, a very huge skills gap where we have older generation and we don't have some sort of a
Bridge.
bridge where we can have a succession plan where we can have more young people coming in, so that the podcast is trying to push that, say, hey, young ones, look into this. Not everyone should be looking into inland opportunities. Look at sea opportunities as well. So that's what we do.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And I celebrate you and the work that you do.
Thank you so
much
much
for everything you do in educating us and in just being you. Just your light shines on so many people. So in just being you, you are amazing. Is there anything that I did not ask you during our conversation that you can say in the last 2 minutes, whether it's to inspire someone or whether it's a pain point that you want to use this platform to share that? I'd really love to hear your thoughts on virtually anything in these last 2 minutes.
Okay. So one of the things that I love to talk about is attitude. And I think that's one of the things that has helped me a lot in being able to progress in this industry. I've had people ask me, because I've only worked with white people. I've had people ask me, have you ever been racially discriminated against? And I'm like, not that I've picked up on. And even if I have been, I've just never picked it up, because the attitude I've had walking into rooms where people don't look like me, people aren't my age, was, I'm looking for experience here. And these people are more experienced than I am. My attitude
So I'm
was,
going to get what I need from this room.
yes. Whether someone is withholding information from me because they feel like I don't deserve it for whatever reason, they choose to attach to that, I don't care. I've always had that attitude. And I love saying to people, even my peers and the young generation, that in order for you to progress, you need to develop a very positive attitude. Look at what you want and just work with that. Because if you try to look at circumstances, then you start to disqualify yourself when people aren't even trying to disqualify you.
Sure.
You are prejudiced yourself, and you have your own, preferences that aren't actually going to help you progress. So I love to say, develop a positive attitude.
Oh, I love that. That's exactly where we'll drop the mic. Thank you so much, Sharon. It's been so beautiful catching up with you.
Thank you,
Sure, there's been a lot of growth
Yes.
in the last 5 years, and I wish you an even more prosperous 5 years to come, and 5 times 5 times 5 times 5.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and I wish you all the success and happiness
Thank you.
and money, Miguel.
Money. I received. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You at home, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to share it with your loved ones. Don't forget to leave comments for Sharon as well. I'm sure she'll be very happy to answer any of your questions that you may have pertaining to maritime law. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms, Sister-in-Law across all platforms. And one last thing before I go, don't forget to buy tickets for the upcoming I Am Lady Justice workshop, which is taking place in Johannesburg on Saturday, the 24th of May. We will have a panel of legal experts addressing issues pertaining to marriage contracts, child maintenance, estate planning, sexual harassment at the workplace, divorce proceedings, and also personal finance. Tickets are available for $950 for the early bird tickets on www.sisterinlaw.co.za. The early bird tickets are available until the end of April, so do not sleep on that. Normal rates for the tickets is 1.2. See you in Johannesburg on the 24th of May. Until next time, bye.